Exclusive contract with Feilu Novel Network Novel. Gao Wu Xuan Huan. My talent has no limit. Lu Wu travels through the earth after the revival of spiritual energy, connects with other worlds, and the warrior is respected. At this time, there are still 3 months left until the martial arts college entrance examination, but fortunately, the Golden Finger and Infinite Talent system have been activated. At the beginning, bind a hundredfold talent. No matter what you do, you can earn 100 times the income from breathing and forging. Even sleeping can make you stronger while lying down. And as long as the system absorbs life energy, it can still improve, with thousands of talents, tens of thousands of talents, and hundreds of thousands of talents. And Lu Wu's strength is also rapidly improving at an unimaginable speed. Shortly thereafter, the War of Nations officially began. The exotic king, who came to invade Earth with hundreds of millions of 9th-level powerhouses, had just stepped out of a rift in the alien realm when a large handprint capable of destroying the universe struck, instantly turning all the exotic powerhouses into nothingness. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. The Age of Martial Arts. Infinite Talent System. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Contemporary practice theory suggests that in the last century, both the true qi spoken by practitioners and the internal force referred to by martial artists were actually the original energy contained in living beings themselves. By freely utilizing this energy, one can demonstrate astonishing combat effectiveness. But this energy is ultimately limited. Many powerful martial artists, as they enter old age, dissipate their original energy and their muscles and bones become weak, making it difficult to showcase their past charm. And now, you have caught up in the era of recovery. Just follow the steps to practice the breathing technique that your predecessor has explored, absorb energy, and continuously replenish your biological energy, forging a stronger physique, even stronger than the legendary martial artists in the previous era. At Yongchang Second Senior High School, in the center of the Wudao Society, there is a platform made of hard stones. A man in his 30s, dressed in a dark black Wudao uniform, is giving a speech. Around him, there were nearly 100 senior high school students sitting cross-legged, around 16 or 17 years old, also wearing martial arts uniforms for practice. At the edge of this group of people, a slender and delicate young man looked at the man explaining on the stone platform with envy in his eyes. Martial artists. Chuyang sighed in his heart that he was not a person from this world. 18 years ago, he traveled here. When I found out that I could practice, I was overjoyed, but unfortunately my physical aptitude was too poor, and practicing the breathing method has not had much effect. Nowadays, even the threshold for a first-level warrior has not been reached. There are still 3 or 4 months left before the college entrance examination. If you still haven't broken through the first level, not to mention top-tier universities like the Dream Shanghai Martial Arts University, even ordinary martial arts universities can barely make it. Abandoning martial arts and following literature. Chuyang was unwilling to accept it. In this society, warriors are everything. Not only can one have a high social status, abundant economic resources, and broad social connections. Just like the warrior Su Xiantong speaking on the stone platform, who was specially hired by the principal from the provincial capital with high salaries to guide the training of high school seniors in martial arts. He only needs to attend 2 classes per week and can earn a salary of 30,000 yuan per month. And these money, Chuyang's parents have to save for 3 months even if they don't eat it. I heard that many powerful warriors can easily earn an annual salary of millions by just hanging the name of a security consultant in large groups or companies. Even if a warrior is slightly inferior, the job they can find is higher than that of a civilian. This is unimaginable for ordinary people. Even if ordinary people succeed in entrepreneurship, with billions of resources and no strong forces behind them, it is inevitable that they will be swallowed up by other coveted people. This is the bloody reality. Once you give up martial arts and enter a higher liberal arts institution, you will have the fate of working for others after graduation. That kind of gloomy life that can be seen at a glance is not what Chuyang wants. Warriors. I want to change my destiny. I must become a warrior. Chuyang clenched his fist tightly and made a secret decision. Teacher, you have said so much. What kind of martial artist are you? At this moment, a young man in the crowd casually spoke up. Chuyang recognized this young man as Han Qingchuan from class 11. His father was in business and came from a wealthy family. Since childhood, he had specialized martial artists to guide him in cultivation, along with a large amount of medicines to supplement qi, blood, and energy. When he first entered high school, he was already a first-order martial artist, but he was a prominent figure on campus. And now, it is said that he is about to break through and become a second-level warrior. Many martial arts universities have long offered him olive branches, promising to receive generous scholarships and cultivation resources as long as he joins, but he refused all and wanted to be admitted to one of the top martial arts universities in Longhua, Shanghai Martial Arts University, with his own strength. Su Xiantong knew that during the teaching process, there would definitely be students provoking him. He was young and reckless, but he didn't take it seriously. He just said lightly, I am now a third-level superior martial artist who refines bones and washes marrow. Third-level warrior. Upon hearing Su Xiantong's words, the crowd suddenly erupted into a low shout. Han Qingchuan's gaze was also fixed. He had abundant cultivation resources provided by his family, and he was trapped at the peak of the first level for more than half a year, fully aware of the difficulties he wanted to overcome. In fact, third-level martial artists are nothing. After you reach this level, you will know the vastness of the world and the dominance of heaven. Third-level martial artists are just the starting point. Su Xiantong spoke calmly and casually punched, causing a sudden explosion in the martial arts society. Pop 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 pop. I saw Su Xiantong punching step by step on the stone platform, his fists echoing one after another. The sound of breaking the wind was loud, as if the void was generating electricity, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. Chuyang stared wide-eyed, afraid of missing a detail. What a powerful force. If this punch hits a person's chest, it may not be able to break the bones. Click. Su Xiantong intentionally demonstrated that when his final move came to a close, he had a slight jolt of luck under his feet and even crushed a hard stone into pieces. The students present were immediately stunned and their eyes were extremely hot. Su Xiantong watched the excited scene downstairs, feeling very satisfied and clapping his hands as he spoke. Alright, that's all for now. Today, I will teach you the key points of practicing the combination of the technique of breathing and the skill of piling. After the teaching was over, Chuyang walked out of the martial arts society in a daze with the flow of people, still thinking about the pile skills that Su Xiantong had just explained, as well as his strong figure during boxing. Yangzi, what are you doing? You're restless, waiting for you for half a day. After walking for a while, Chuyang heard someone calling out to him. He looked up and saw his desk mate Feng Shuping, who was also in class 3. Feng Shuping hugged Chuyang and said, Let's go home. I just released a game yesterday, and it's a great time to go back tonight. The two families are not very close, but they happen to be on the way. Looking at Chuyang beside him silently with an absent-minded expression, Feng Shuping sighed and whispered, Don't think about it, Yang. We both have poor qualifications, and there is no hope for martial arts. Study with peace of mind, get into a better liberal arts university, and it will be easier to find a job in the future. Chuyang could only make a low, sound. Give up martial arts. Is that all we can do? Drip. Suddenly, Chuyang's footsteps paused, and a mechanically synthesized electronic sound echoed in his mind. Detected that the host is over 18 years old, and the infinite talent system is starting to bind. Chapter 2. Ordinary and Warm Home. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Host name. Chuyang Talent Bonus. 100 times, upgrade progress. 0.00001%. Realm. Advanced students, 70.3%. Skills. Beginner level, Qingshan Elementary Tuna Technique, 63.32%, beginner level, 3 body stake technique, 34.67%. Martial arts. Nun Chuyang swept the transparent light curtain in front of him, quickly put it away, and calmly followed Feng Shuping out of the campus. Feng Shuping looked at Chuyang in surprise, feeling that in just a blink of an eye, Chuyang's spirit and energy had changed. He was really puzzled. As I left the school gate, I saw a sleek silver-white car parked on the roadside. As Han Qingchuan entered, it slowly took off and disappeared into the distance in the blink of an eye. Although today's society is thriving, technological development is not slow. The emergence of anti-gravity devices has enabled transportation to break free from the limitations of gravity. Of course, the price is also extremely high, just like the flying car that connects with Han Qingchuan, which is worth 6 million dragon yuan, which is only in the middle and low range among flying cars. Looking at the envious eyes of the people around him, Feng Shuping felt a little sour. He let out a pooh and muttered softly, it wasn't because of the family's arrogance. If it weren't for his father's friendship with a martial arts powerhouse back then, he could have done such a big business. Chuyang pretended not to hear. Destiny is the excuse of the weak, luck is the humility of the strong. If he didn't work hard himself and relied solely on his family's resources, Han Qingchuan wouldn't be able to achieve his current martial arts achievements. The two of them arrived at the place where they used to wait for buses. With a glimpse of Chuyang's spare time, they saw recruitment notices posted on the bus stop signs. A certain building is recruiting security personnel, with excellent salaries and increasing levels of martial arts. Good guy. A second-level warrior's monthly salary is half higher than the sum of their parents. Looking up into the distance, a huge LED screen played an equipment advertisement endorsed by a martial arts expert. After a moment, the bus stopped. Boarding the car, exciting moments of the martial arts competition were also played on the onboard TV. As one of the contestants collapsed to the ground, the car erupted with excited shouts. Feng Shuping, who knew his martial arts were hopeless, moved his body in annoyance and continued to bury his head in playing the game in his palm. In the noisy crowd, Chuyang quietly looked out the window, clenched his fists, and muttered firmly in his heart, soon, I will also become a warrior. The current bus speed is very fast. About 20 minutes later, Chuyang and Feng Shuping, who are still playing games, separated and got off the bus. After walking for a while, we arrived at a secluded community with lush trees. Ting ran up to the 7th floor, entered the password to open the door, and saw a set of indoor spaces of about 100 square meters. The decoration was simple and unadorned, and it was very clean. Mom and Dad, sister, I'm back. Chuyang changed his shoes and walked into the room. Yang is back. A woman walked out of the kitchen, wearing an apron around her waist, in her 40s, with a gentle temperament. It is the mother of Chuyang, Lin Ruoqing. Brother, come and take a look. I just sorted out some online martial arts cultivation materials. If I don't find them, will it be helpful to you? A clear and crisp voice of a young girl came from the air. Immediately, I saw my younger sister Chu Wanhue running out of the room, around 13 or 14 years old, with a refreshing high ponytail and bright eyes that looked like stars falling into them, extremely beautiful. Okay, Yang, you and Xiaoye can go play. Don't think so much, like in your high school, there are only a dozen or so students who can pass the martial arts exam each year at most. Don't try to practice hard and hurt your body again. Lin Ruoqing gently persuaded and turned around before entering the kitchen again. Mom, it's okay, I'll just take a look. If it doesn't work out, I'll give up and go take the humanities exam, Chuyang said in a relaxed voice. Upon hearing this, Lin Ruoqing hesitated and couldn't help but let out a faint sigh in her eyes. If she and her husband could earn more money and provide enough medicinal herbs to replenish qi and blood, how could Yang be worse than others? Hard work, sister. In the living room, Chuyang walked over and rubbed Chu Huanyue's head. As long as I can help my brother, it's good. What's going on today? It's weird. Chu Huanyue shyly pulled Chuyang into the room. Chuyang smiled lightly, looking at his sister with some heartache and guilt. Although my younger sister is still young, she has shown extraordinary insights into martial arts, and it is estimated that her cultivation qualifications are much higher than those of Chuyang. I must become a martial artist early on, even if I make money, so that my sister can lay a solid foundation in martial arts before entering high school. Taking advantage of Chu Yang's concentration while watching the information on the computer, Chu Huanyue hesitated for a moment and whispered, "Brother, can you lend me your ID card for use?" "What are you going to do?" Chu Yang turned his head and asked. "I want to try making martial arts commentary videos. If you really do it well, you can make a lot of money." Chu Huanyue said seriously with a serious expression. "You're not even a warrior yet, can you still explain videos?" Chuyang knew that his younger sister wanted to lighten the burden on the family, and his heart warmed, but he didn't stop it. Instead, he joked. "You don't know about this, do you? The commentary needs to be able to speak, make the battle vivid and interesting, and be able to explain clearly. The actual strength is not important." Chu Huanyue looked very familiar and explained carefully. "Okay, then you can give it a try, but we agreed beforehand that we can't delay our studies, otherwise I'll really hit you." Chuyang said in a frightened tone. "Hee, I knew my brother was the best." Chu Huanyue hugged Chuyang and acted coquettishly, shaking Chu Yang's face with helplessness. Suddenly, the sound of the door opening was heard, followed by the mother blaming her father Chu Hong for coming back late today. The father seemed to have defended himself in a low voice, but Chu Yang didn't hear it clearly. Yang, Xiaoye is out for dinner." Lin Ruoqing was shouting in the living room. "Here we go." Chu Yang and Chu Huanyue walked out of the room, and Lin Ruoqing had already prepared the food. The two of them immediately sat down. 3 dishes and 1 soup, with a balanced combination of meat and vegetables. After eating for a while, his father Chu Hong coughed lightly, took out a box from his bag, and placed it on the table, pushing it to Chu Yang. "This is the spiritual ginseng cultivated by Shilling Company for 50 years. Yang, aren't you going to take the martial arts exam? Dad will buy it for you after you finish eating." Chapter 3. The Cultivation Speed of Chuyang. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chuyang took the box. "My mother Lin Ruoqing is a primary school teacher, and my father Chu Hong works as a clerk in a government agency. Both of them have low salaries and have some savings over the years, but they still have to bear the burden of their own and younger sister's 2 children. There is really not much money available for them to use. With the rapid development of martial arts nowadays, various precious medicinal herbs for supplementing qi and blood have also risen in value. This is not cheap, and at least 30,000 to 40,000 yuan is needed." Chuyang did not refuse his father's kindness. If it had been before, he would have definitely let his father back down. "It's impossible to burden our family just because we insist on taking the martial arts exam." But now with the talent system in place, Chuyang is confident that he can become a warrior. Once you become a martial artist, you can use your leisure time to find some part-time jobs. This can not only help your family, but also buy some equipment and medicine for cultivation. "Thank you, Dad." Chuyang's heart was filled with warmth as he said. "This silly child, why are you so polite to your father?" Chu Hong saw Chuyang accept it, his face full of joy, as if he had already seen Chuyang become a martial artist, and he had been admitted to his ideal martial arts university with great charm and glory. A family of 4 happily ate, chatting and laughing. Lin Ruoqing said that the child was mischievous, and that child was the most likable. Father Chu Hong said that the leader in the unit always likes to put on airs, and the colleague always makes small moves. Chuyang listened with a warm heart. At this moment, Chu Hong suddenly remembered something and said in a deep voice, "By the way, you guys have been coming back early from work and school recently. I heard news from the garrison that a group of extremely vicious criminal gangs have fled to the vicinity of Yongchang City, causing quite a stir. It seems that a second-level warrior in the garrison has been injured because of this." Chuyang felt a chill in his heart. Xia violated the ban with martial arts. Once an individual's strength was strong, there would definitely be people who took risks and wanted to get something for nothing. Be careful then. These people are ruthless and can do anything. Yang and Xiaoya, don't play outside after school. Lin Ruoqing's face was a bit worried. Chu Yang and Chu Wanhua quickly stated that they would get home as soon as possible after school to avoid worrying their mother. "It's okay, it's not possible. I'll go pick them up and come back. Besides, being scared by the garrison, maybe this group of people will go to another city." Chu Hong was afraid that his wife would be too worried, so he spoke up to comfort him. "This is the best. Lin Ruoqing still has some concerns." After dinner, Chu Yang returned to his room. Chu Wanhua happily held her ID card and was busy preparing to start her career in explaining martial arts videos, without disturbing her. Chu Yang stood on the empty ground of the room, took a bite of the spiritual energy ginseng, directly stirred it up and swallowed it into his stomach. He extended his hands half in front and half in back, bent his knees slightly, and put on a posture of the three-body stake technique, achieving a perfect harmony. The three-body stake technique he is currently practicing is an old technique passed down from the previous era. It can have a strong and healthy effect in times of lack of spiritual energy. Now, with the revival of spiritual energy, it has regained new vitality. At this moment, Chu Yang's eyes were sharp, like a fierce tiger lurking in the snow. With the help of the breathing and breathing techniques taught by the school, he could breathe and inhale, only feeling a tearing pain in his abdomen. It was like a raging fire rising up, and his skin and flesh began to tremble. His body was filled with blood and qi. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, a situation he had never felt before. Take a look at the personal panel when distracted. Realm. Advanced students, 70.9%. Skill. 69.81% of Qingshan Elementary Tuna Technique, 38.06% of Beginner Level 3 Body Stake Technique. This hundredfold talent is indeed terrifying. In just over 10 minutes, it has grown so much. To reach the first level of martial arts, one needs to refine meat and exchange blood. The body is as strong as a hard rock, and blood flows like a river. This is considered successful. However, just like this, it is only necessary to cultivate into a stronger and more powerful man than ordinary people, and also to cultivate some martial arts skills to maximize the strength of the body, otherwise it is just a pillar to resist beating. And martial arts are divided into two types, old techniques and new techniques. The old technique refers to the martial arts of the era before the revival of spiritual energy. For example, the three-body stake technique currently practiced in Chuyang belongs to the Xingyi fist in the old technique. There is also the domineering and fierce Baji fist, which is well known in the old technique and is practiced by many people. The new technique tells the story of various powerful individuals inventing or discovering martial arts skills after the revival of spiritual energy. It is mysterious, unpredictable, ever-changing, and has astonishing destructive power. If the two are compared, the theoretical community believes that the old technique is suitable for early cultivation by martial artists, easy to learn, and has good combat effectiveness, but the new technique can go further. However, the price of the new technique is much higher than that of the old one, and there are often hundreds of thousands, and even millions of existing techniques. And what about old techniques? You can easily find a bunch online, worth only a few hundred dragon yuan coins. In terms of martial arts, the most expensive one is breathing technique. Advanced breathing techniques are extremely expensive, and each level is sky-high. Without a rich family background, one cannot afford them. Only the descendants of large families, groups, or martial arts experts have the opportunity to cultivate from a young age, and ordinary people don't even need to think about it. It's not even compared to the ordinary breathing technique that schools offer. However, currently Chuyang has not become a true warrior, so there is no need to consider so much for now. In terms of breathing techniques, we will find a solution when our strength becomes stronger in the future. In his view, in terms of martial arts, old and new techniques are like a struggle for physical energy. Only by strengthening oneself and defeating strong enemies can one achieve good martial arts skills. What about old techniques? What can new techniques do? As long as I practice, it is the strongest martial arts skill. At this moment, Chuyang was covered in a layer of cold sweat all over his body. He decided to take off his clothes and only wear shorts to practice. He followed a certain pattern of breathing and inhaling, and his muscles relaxed like cotton and tightened like iron. His body's not exaggerated muscle lines seemed to be full of explosive power. Dong dong dong. The heart's pulse is beating extremely strongly, like a big pump, pumping blood. Scream. Scream. Listen carefully, there seems to be the sound of a small stream flowing in the quiet room. So crazy was the cultivation, until the long night was coming to an end, and all the spiritual energy ginseng was swallowed and refined by Chuyang. At the moment when the red sun rises, Chuyang suddenly opened his eyes and a flash of brilliance flashed through. There was a sudden change on the personal panel. Realm. First level warrior, 0.01%. Practice. Qingshan Elementary Tuna Technique, 82.15%, Beginner Level 3 Body Stake Technique, 75.52%. Chapter 4. Applying for Martial Arts, Seeking Collection. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Finally becoming a warrior. My cultivation time for 1 day is equivalent to others' cultivation for 100 days, and 1 year of cultivation is equivalent to the other people's cultivation for 100 years. At this terrifying speed, I am no weaker than any genius. Chuyang's eyes were filled with joy. However, he knew that it was not easy to cultivate at an extremely terrifying speed like last night. I have my own years of accumulation ahead, and more importantly, my father bought the 50-year-old spiritual ginseng to make up for the consumed qi and blood. Otherwise, relying solely on his own biological energy may be drained and damage the foundation of martial arts. Now that you have become a martial artist, you should be able to find some part-time jobs to earn some money and purchase medicinal herbs to supplement your qi and blood. Only then can you excel in martial arts. 6 months later, in the college entrance examination, Shanghai Martial Arts University will no longer be a delusion. Chuyang's heart was filled with fighting spirit. After a moment, you can hear the sound of your mother Lin Ruoqing getting up and busy in the kitchen. Chuyang pushed open the door and walked up to him, whispering, "Mom, I was promoted to a warrior last night." Lin Ruoqing's chopping knife slammed into his hand and repeatedly said, "Okay, okay. Yang, I knew you could succeed." Chuyang scratched his head, my mother's reaction was too calm. Little did he know that after he turned around, 2 tears flowed from Lin Ruoqing's slightly red eyes. He quickly wiped them twice and whispered with a smile on his lips, "My son is a warrior now." Duo. Humming a light and cheerful tune, it seems that even cutting vegetables is much faster than usual. As soon as Lin Ruoqing announced the news that Chuyang had become a warrior during the meal, cheers erupted in his home. Chu Wanhua saved Chuyang and shouted happily, "Brother, I knew you could do it. He, Yang has become a martial artist. I need to have a drink today." Chu Hong quickly took out the good wine he had been reluctant to drink from the cabinet and poured a full glass. Yang, keep working hard, Dad is happy for you. What kind of wine do you drink in the morning? You have to go to work. Lin Ruoqing complained, but there was no intention of stopping him. Just one cup, happy today. Chu Hong chuckled softly, his face unable to conceal his joy. Seeing this scene, Chuyang felt particularly happy in his heart, even happier than becoming a warrior. Leaving home and boarding the bus, Feng Shuping, his desk mate, continued to play games in his palm as usual. When he saw Chuyang, he greeted him and asked how the game he had bought yesterday was so enjoyable. However, seeing Chuyang's uninterested appearance, he turned to play games again. At this moment, watching the clip played on the car TV in Chuyang clearly gave a different feeling. I thought to myself, now that I have become a martial artist, I should learn a martial arts skill. The martial arts college entrance examination not only tests various abilities, but also tests practical abilities, and the proportion is not small. Learning martial arts skills or not is a matter of vastly different performances. There seem to be several old martial arts techniques in the martial arts community of the school, which can be borrowed for free as long as you apply for martial arts. Of course, if you want to learn the new skills collected by the Martial Arts Society, you will need to pay an additional fee. After arriving at the school, Chuyang went directly to the teacher's office and found his homeroom teacher, Zhou Jianfeng. Zhou Jianfeng was over 30 months old, with thin cheeks and a literary aura on his body. When he saw the arrival of Chuyang, he put down the paper he was grading. "Teacher, I want to apply for the martial arts exam," Chuyang firmly said. "Martial arts?" Zhou Jianfeng frowned and glanced at Chuyang. He knew that Chuyang had always wanted to apply for the martial arts exam and had been working hard. He went to the Martial Arts Society to study every day, but it seemed that his qualifications were not very good and he had never become a martial artist. There was no hope of taking the martial arts exam. On the contrary, in the field of humanities, it is a good seedling that can be made. This is the cost of applying for the martial arts exam. Chuyang placed the 5,000 yuan given by his parents in the morning on the table. Applying for the martial arts program requires payment of fees, as you can read old martial arts classics for free and also use equipment for practicing martial arts. Any loss or damage is a significant expense. Have you made up your mind? Zhou Jianfeng still asked, and when he saw Chuyang nodding, he frowned and thought for a moment before saying, "Chuyang, if you can achieve good results in the humanities exam, work hard and sprint, maybe you can enter a first-class humanities university." In this way, the teacher will reserve your reference qualifications for the humanities. If your grades in the humanities are not ideal, it will be the same for you to take the humanities exam again. "Thank you very much, Teacher Zhou." Chuyang thanked and said. As the homeroom teacher of Class 3, Zhou Jianfeng can be said to be diligent and responsible, and he retains the reference qualification for humanities to take the martial arts exam, which is not in accordance with the rules. He will definitely have to go to the principal's place and spend a lot of time talking. Although Chuyang is confident that he can be admitted to a martial arts university, he cannot refuse Teacher Zhou's kindness without understanding the good intentions. "Alright, then practice well. The teacher is here to help you succeed." Zhou Jianfeng waved his hand and continued to grade the exam paper. Chuyang agreed and returned to the teacher. After only 2 classes, the news that Chuyang had already applied for the martial arts exam spread throughout the class. Feng Shuping, who was outside the teacher, quickly ran back to his seat and said, "Yangzi, Wang Shuang went to the office to hear about your application for the martial arts exam. Are you really fake?" Seeing Chuyang nod, Feng Shuping patted his thigh and was a bit excited. "Yangzi, you're stupid. You even pay if you know you can't pass the exam. Why not do something with this money? You always have to give it a try to find out." Chuyang said calmly, "Moreover, I have already broken through last night and become a first-class martial artist." "What?" Feng Shuping suddenly widened his eyes, full of disbelief. "After only one night, Chuyang has become a warrior. He seemed to see two people walking side by side, suddenly taking a fork in the road and getting farther and farther away with the passage of time. Feeling a bit complicated and a bit bitter, he murmured, "Yangzi, congratulations to you." Suddenly, in the classroom, Zhou Jingling, who had already applied for martial arts, heard the two of them talking. He turned his head to look at Chuyang and said, "Chuyang, have you also become a first-class martial artist? So, after class, can we join hands and have a sparring?" "Forget it, I haven't learned martial arts either." Chuyang smiled and said. Zhou Jingling smiled and said, "It's okay, I'll let you go. This is an upgraded version of Starry Sky, so if you like it, please click to bookmark it and provide some data, because it really doesn't meet the mainstream readers and is relatively niche. Don't miss it, brothers." Chapter 5. Preliminary Skills Test. You are listening at novelfull.audio. If others hear Zhou Jingling's words, they may feel that they are provoking. But Chuyang and Zhou Jingling were in class 3, so they naturally knew that he was just straightforward and had no other implied meaning. After thinking for a moment, Chuyang agreed and said, "Then let's finish school at noon. There's more time." "Okay, then the forest after we go to school should be quiet with fewer people and no one will disturb us," Zhou Jingling said. "Okay." Chuyang smiled and nodded. He once heard his classmates say that Zhou Jingling came from a good family background and seemed to be a branch of a certain family in another province. He did not practice the Qingshan elementary tuna technique issued by the school, but rather the techniques passed down from his family, and he must also have mastered martial arts. This is a rare opportunity to hone practical skills, and you can also see how much difference you have compared to other martial artists. In the classroom, other students looked at Chuyang with envy, martial artist. I won't be the same person in the future. Time flies, and the morning cultural class ends. Zhou Jingling stood up from his seat, carrying a backpack, and shouted to Chuyang, "Let's go, Chuyang. Why are you in such a hurry, waiting to be beaten?" Chuyang smiled and said, Okay, I'll wait for you to defeat me later." Zhou Jingling laughed heartily and walked out of the classroom side by side with Chuyang. Feng Shuping looked at Zhou Jingling and Chuyang, who were usually aloof and cold, talking and laughing, and couldn't help but feel sour in his heart. He knew that although Zhou Jingling was extremely low-key on weekdays, his family background was extraordinary, and he didn't communicate much with other classmates on weekdays, showing a sense of distance. Just because he was both martial artists, he looked at Chuyang differently, which made his mood a bit complicated. Martial artists. Forget it, I'm not very talented. I'll accept my fate. Feng Shuping looked down at the flashing game screen on his phone and couldn't help but sigh with sadness. The two of them walked and chatted, and after a while, they arrived at the forest behind the school. This place has a peaceful environment with no one around, making it a great place to practice martial arts. Zhou Jingling threw off his backpack, took off his coat, and revealed his white short martial arts uniform. His two exposed arms were muscular knots, full of a wild sense of power. After jumping in place for a few times, he moved his hands and feet, and smiled at Chuyang, saying, "You haven't practiced martial arts before, so you definitely can't beat me. So, you attack me first and let me see which aspect of your martial arts is stronger. When you choose the martial arts you want to cultivate, you can also have a focus. Don't worry, just use your full strength to fight," he said as he put on a Tai Chi stance. "Okay, be careful." Chuyang didn't hesitate either. After a simple warm-up, he reminded him and put his toes on the ground to increase his energy. Step by step. Kicking off a piece of soil under his feet, he rushed towards Zhou Jingling like a fierce tiger and punched him directly in the chest. Although Chuyang has not practiced martial arts and does not know how to use his energy to exert his power, he has watched many martial arts battle videos and can still perform simple attacks. The speed is good, and the basic skills are very solid. I have put in a lot of hard work. Zhou Jingling still has leisure time to evaluate the offensive of Chuyang. Seeing Chuyang fist approaching, Zhou Jingling suddenly drew a circle on his chest with both hands. The left hand brushed towards Chuyang's right arm, and the back of the right hand quickly swung out like a spark. Chuyang instinctively felt that his abdomen was empty and something was wrong, so he quickly withdrew his fist and went down. Ha! Zhou Jingling saw Chuyang hastily changing his moves, feeling a bit flustered, but he accurately blocked the attack on his right hand, and was suddenly startled. Immediately, the palm changed. After suddenly retracting one foot with the right palm, he padded towards Chuyang's chest at a speed twice as fast as before. But what shocked Zhou Jingling again was that Chuyang punched him with a punch, and unfortunately, he was about to hit his right hand. Zhou Jingling quickly stopped his attack, took a few steps back, frowned, and looked at Chuyang with confusion, asking, "Do you really not have the martial arts skills to cultivate fruit?" Chuyang shook his head and said, "No, I just watched a lot of competition videos." Zhou Jingling's expression froze for a moment. Immediately, he said in a deep voice, "I used Tai Chi just now and I'm not very proficient. Now I'm using Tong Bei Quan, I'll attack, and you'll defend." As the words fell, Zhou Jingling seemed like a white ape, rushing towards Chuyang in an instant. His fist wind tore through the air, making a whining sound as he swiftly charged towards Chuyang. Chuyang knew that Zhou Jingling had used his true skills and dared not be distracted at all. He stared closely at his shoulder, crossed his body, and followed the instructions in the martial arts video, striving to quickly distinguish which arm he used, which foot he kicked, and where he was attacking. Then, he quickly swung his arm to intercept and counterattack. Bang bang bang. The two of them exchanged hands in an instant, and their forearms drew out remnants, fiercely colliding with each other, making a dull sound. The larger Zhou Jingling grew, the more curious his heart became. What Chuyang showed was not like a warrior who had just been promoted yesterday. After fighting for a while like this, Chuyang felt his arms seem a bit soft, like heavy lead, and his eyes became unreal. His heart pounded violently, as if he could hear blood rushing rapidly, and his chest was suffocated. Zhou Jingling noticed something unusual about Chuyang and quickly shouted, "Forcefully holding your breath will harm your body. Use the breathing technique." Chuyang's heart twitched and he quickly activated his breathing technique. Suddenly, his qi and blood gradually subsided, and the feeling of soreness and weakness in his arms receded, becoming strong and powerful again. He fiercely confronted Zhou Jingling with punches, although not in perfect form, but still effectively intercepted most of Zhou Jingling's attacks. A few punches hit him, but he only fought hard, as if he didn't feel half of it. His body shook and he pounced again. "Hurry up, it's been a long time since I fought so happily." Zhou Jingling's eyes were full of war intent, and he fought faster and faster. Chuyang's defense was tight, and in less than a minute, he was punched a few more times on his body. "You can't keep defending." Chuyang's gaze fixed, and he saw Zhou Jingling's chest showing a gap. In the midst of lightning and fire, he remembered seeing a warrior in a video perform a foot thrust, which was a blessing to his soul as he suddenly kicked his right foot. "But I just didn't practice before. In a hurry, I kicked high and directly kicked into Zhou Jingling's abdomen. But after Zhou Jingling punched, one hand failed to defend. He could only contract his abdomen suddenly, then continue to attack non-stop, exchanging injuries for injuries, and hit Chuyang's shoulder with a punch. Bang! Zhou Jingling's figure swayed, he stumbled back 3 or 4 steps, tripped over a dead branch lying on the ground, and sat down on the ground. And Chuyang was knocked to the ground with a punch, and just as he landed, he immediately flipped over and fell. The right foot suddenly exerted its power with a click sound, and the shoe on the foot split into pieces in an instant. Chuyang suddenly froze, his eyes filled with astonishment. Chapter 6. New Technique. Liehu Fist. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Ha ha ha, I knew it would be this result. Zhou Jingling chuckled and said, ordinary shoes can't withstand the power of warriors, so they usually go to martial arts stores to buy supplies. I have a pair of new shoes in my bag, so you can deal with them first. Chuyang didn't show any affectation either. He opened his backpack on the ground and found a pair of shoes that looked quite expensive. He tried them on his feet twice and found them to fit well. He looked up at Zhou Jingling and smiled, no wonder you rushed to the martial arts club during break. So you were waiting for me to embarrass you. Thank you, these shoes are good. I'll find a part-time job in a few days and pay you back when I earn money. Forget it, it's just a pair of shoes. I'll give it to you as a gesture of satisfaction from you. Zhou Jingling waved his hand nonchalantly and lay on the ground, panting in his rough attire, saying, aren't you tired? Tired. Upon hearing Zhou Jingling's words, the excitement of the battle gradually dissipated, and Chuyang felt a burning pain in his lungs. His arms were sore and tender, and he was still trembling slightly. As soon as I took off my clothes, my arms were all blue and red, especially the punch mark on my shoulder, which had turned dark and dark. A sense of fatigue followed, and Chuyang also sat on the ground, silently operating the breathing technique to restore the consumed qi and blood. At this moment, Zhou Jingling got up from the ground, rummaged through his backpack for a while, took out 2 bottles of spray, and threw 1 bottle to Chuyang. This is a special effect spray developed by Xingyi Company. It can quickly dissolve blood and dredge silt, and recover from trauma. Your parents are worried about going home without having to. Zhou Jingling took off his clothes and revealed his arms, which were also covered in green and red, carefully spraying medicine. Chuyang sprayed twice on his arms and shoulders, feeling clear and cool, emitting a faint medicinal fragrance. In no time, the blue and red on both arms had dissipated. These are all medicines that warriors often prepare, and it's normal for you to become a warrior without knowing. Zhou Jingling wiped medicine and said, you're really crazy when you fight. But to be honest, Chuyang, you haven't learned any martial arts skills. Chuyang shook his head. If that's true. Zhou Jingling's expression changed and he slowly said, Chuyang, your strength, speed, and qi and blood are all average, but your combat instinct is very strong, stronger than many warriors. This instinct is rare, and it will be very helpful for you to cultivate your martial arts skills in the future. Chuyang looked back and realized that he was indeed fighting by instinct. He then looked at Zhou Jingling and asked, how much strength did you use just now? Ha ha ha, I have been practicing longer than you, so there's no need to compare with me. However, I can demonstrate it. As Zhou Jingling spoke, he walked up to a tree, his eyes slightly fixed, and slowly raised his right hand. Chuyang's intuition was that Zhou Jingling was very different from just now, as if he had a majestic momentum on his body. He saw Zhou Jingling suddenly punch out. Roar! In an instant, there was a surreal crimson fierce tiger on his fist, lifelike and with a majestic expression. Click! The tree with a bowl mouth that was thick and thin unexpectedly broke in half at the waist and fell to the ground with a loud bang. And Zhou Jingling's face was also somewhat pale. New technique! Chuyang exclaimed in surprise. Yes, it's called Liehu fist, which can briefly unleash extremely strong qi and blood power. Zhou Jingling explained, Chuyang, you should also learn martial arts. Before the college entrance examination, you should be able to practice a martial arts skill to the entry-level. Otherwise, when it comes to practical combat, you will only get beaten. Chuyang nodded and then said, why did you tell me all this? Zhou Jingling turned his head to look at Chuyang and said with a smile, my father often said to me, a warrior is fighting for the breath in his heart, sacrificing his life and forgetting his death, moving forward without this thought. He can't go far on the path of a warrior. You are different from the other people in our class who want to take the martial arts exam. They worry about gains and losses every day, but you have this kind of anger in your heart. Zhou Jingling looked at Chuyang with a burning gaze and said. Chuyang smiled dumbfounded, shook his head, and said with a smile, "You look quite cold and aloof in class on weekdays. I didn't expect you to talk a lot." "There's no way, what they're thinking is how to get into a better liberal arts university, and it's easy to find a job after graduating from that major, while what I'm thinking is how to cultivate, so naturally we can't talk about it together." Zhou Jingling shrugged helplessly and said, "Let's go back to eat. I got a fight and I'm a bit hungry." The two of them had almost finished their rest. After returning to the cafeteria to have a full meal, Zhou Jingling returned to the classroom and said to Chuyang before leaving, "If you want to practice martial arts, several old martial arts from the Martial Arts Society are also suitable for you. However, if you want to practice new martial arts, you need to buy them online. However, new martial arts are extremely energy intensive, and it is still cost-effective to practice old martial arts before reaching the third level." After Chuyang and Zhou Jingling separated, they went straight to Wudao Society. At this time, there were not many people in the Wudao Society. Some were practicing breathing and pile skills during their lunch break, while others were itching and sparking on the stone platform. It was just that you punched and kicked each other, a bit like a chicken pecking at each other. It wasn't as fierce as the one Chuyang had just hit. And those students who have already become first-level martial artists have other places of cultivation, which are not here. After looking around, Chuyang walked deep into the Wudao Society and saw a teacher in his 40s in the duty room. He said, "Teacher, I want to learn martial arts." "Name?" The teacher looked up and casually said. Chuyang said, "Class 3 of senior high school, Chuyang." After operating on the screen a few times and confirming everything was correct, the teacher nodded and said, "Let's go in." Chuyang pushed open the door and saw spacious rooms inside, with reclining chairs arranged one after another. There were more than 10 virtual helmets on the table in front of them. He picked up one and put it on, lying in the chair. When I opened my eyes again, I had already arrived at the virtual space of the school. Chapter 7. Old Techniques. Xingyi Fist. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Chuyang is still the first time entering the virtual space of the school. I saw myself in an empty martial arts school at this moment, with a hard stone arena about 10 zhang in the middle, and 4 figures sitting above the lower arena. Please choose the martial arts skills that Chuyang students will learn. Mechanical Synthesized Electronic Sound System at the Tetsu Martial Arts Academy. Xingyi Fist. Chuyang thought for a moment and realized that the 3-body stake technique was about to break through to a rough level. At this point, he had to switch to other old techniques and learn other stake techniques. It would be too time-consuming, so it would be better to first refine the form and mind fist to become proficient. As the sound fell, a slender 60-year-old man stood up on the seat under the arena, his figure leaping higher and higher. "I am Feilu, a practitioner of Xingyi Quan. Next, I will demonstrate Chuangong, Wuxing Quan, and 12 fist forms. Immediately take a step forward and strike the palm, performing the 3-body stake technique, combining the inner 3 with the outer 3, and achieving a perfect in round 6. In contrast, Chuyang instantly felt that his pile skills were too rough, and this old man's pile skills were definitely above his mastery. To practice the 3-body piles well, it is important to remember that in terms of appearance, it emphasizes the combination of hands and feet, elbows and knees, shoulders and hips. This is the external 3-body combination, while in the body, it is the combination of heart and mind, will and chi and force. This is the internal 3-body combination, and the head, hands, and feet are also the 3-body combination. Chuyang stared intently at Feilu's explanation of his movements, and the parts he didn't understand before suddenly became clear, gradually realizing something in his heart. The 5 elements fist is a combination of the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. It includes the fist of chop, the fist of diamond, the fist of collapse, the fist of cannon, and the fist of horizontals. Let's take a look at my demonstration. Chuyang dared not blink, afraid of missing any details. He saw Feilu demonstrating the 5 elements fist technique, chopping the fist like a knife, breaking the fist like a sharp arrow piercing through a stone, drilling the fist like a dragon out of the water, and horizontal punches combining strength and softness. Among them, the cannon fist was the most powerful and imposing, making people's hearts tremble when they saw it. After demonstrating the 5 elements fist, Feilu practiced the 12 forms one by one, and it had been over an hour. Chuyang remained focused and silently remembered, taking advantage of the fact that it was still early for the afternoon class. He looked at it again and confirmed his memory before leaving the martial arts society. It is not easy to learn a martial arts skill. Martial arts emphasizes teaching by example. Without the guidance of martial arts masters like Chuyang, self-learning requires taking many detours. Fortunately, the school has hired Su Xiantong, a 3rd-level martial artist, and if you have any questions, you can ask for advice during class. After returning to the class, as soon as Chuyang sat down, Zhou Jingling turned his head and asked, "Which martial arts skill did you choose?" Chuyang replied, "Xingyi fist." Zhou Jingling nodded and said, "Well, it's pretty good. However, Xingyi Quan is easy to learn but difficult to master. It's not as easy to get started as Baji Quan, but if you practice it thoroughly, there are also many benefits. Let's talk about passing the martial arts exam first." Chuyang smiled nonchalantly and said, "With your current strength, you can definitely be admitted to a martial arts university, but if you want to enter a first-class university, at least you need to reach the 2nd level of martial arts. Even I can't say I have a perfect chance now," Zhou Jingling said. Chuyang nodded and said, "There are only 4 high schools in Yongchang City alone. There are not many candidates who have reached the 1st level of martial arts, and there are nearly 100. Only 2 or 3 people can be admitted to Shanghai Martial Arts University every year, which shows how difficult it is. To elevate one's level to the 2nd level before the college entrance examination and hone one's martial arts skills to a proficient level, time is urgent. By the way, aren't you looking for a part-time job? I can introduce a few people to you." Zhou Jingling knew that Chuyang's family background was ordinary, and he felt a bit stretched out in order to support a martial artist's cultivation. Chuyang thought for a moment and said, "I'm not looking for it lately. I heard that a group of criminals came to our city a few days ago. My parents are worried about accidents and asked me to go back early after school." Zhou Jingling was not surprised that Chuyang knew the news and said in a low voice, "That group of people are really impressive. Do you know the situation?" Chuyang looked at Zhou Jingling with a strange expression, so he asked. Zhou Jingling shook his head and said, "I don't know much about it, but my dad transferred a 3rd-level warrior from the provincial capital a few days ago. I heard that the group specializes in picking on the wealthy and never leaves any survivors after looting. 2 2nd-level warriors have already fallen into the hands of this group of people." 2 2nd-level warriors. Chuyang raised his eyebrows, grateful that ordinary people like his parents would not be involved in it. What worried him was that there was such a group of extremely vicious bandits hiding around him. Who knew if disaster would fall on him? He tentatively asked, "I heard that group of people had already been scared away by the garrison, shouldn't there be anything else?" Zhou Jingling sneered and said, "The garrison guard is just in the heart of those wealthy people. The group of people have traveled across 3 provinces, spanning over 2,000 li, and are heading straight to Yongchang City. They have been hiding in the surrounding area for almost 3 months. If there is no plan, ghosts will not believe it. If it weren't for someone committing a murder, the guards wouldn't have known there was such a group of people lurking here." Chuyang was secretly surprised, truly a member of the family, with astonishing energy. This news has not yet spread in society, and ordinary people are still kept in the dark. They have already understood it quite well. Quickly improve your strength. Without the power of self-protection, in this society where the law of the fittest prevails, every step taken is like walking on thin ice, trembling with fear, wishing to fly back home and focus on cultivation now. After school in the afternoon, Chuyang did not see the figure of his desk mate Feng Shuping and followed Zhou Jingling towards the outside of the school. After bidding farewell to Zhou Jingling who was being picked up and dropped off, Chuyang walked to the place where he took the bus. Seeing Feng Shuping's lonely figure, he sighed and walked over. After a moment of silence, Chuyang spoke up and said, "Did you hear what I said to Zhou Jingling? Be careful lately, the city may not be peaceful." Feng Shuping let out a and said, "Got it, thank you, Yangzi." Listening to the deliberate estrangement revealed in the tone, Chuyang could only smile helplessly. After sitting with him for 3 years, even if he became a warrior, could he still casually abandon his past friendship? Perhaps Feng Shuping saw his friends who used to hang out together and suddenly transformed into a real dragon, feeling a bit unbalanced. Coupled with his weak self-esteem and being entangled with Chuyang, he was afraid of being misunderstood as having a heart to curry favor, so he chose to stay away. Some friends are not worried that you are not doing well, but they are afraid that you are doing better than them. Understood, it's just human nature. Chapter 8. Speed of Entry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 20 minutes later, Chuyang returned home. My mother was cooking, my father was sitting in the living room drinking tea, and Chu Wanhue was busy learning video production in the room. After Chuyang said hello, she immediately entered the room, ready to start. Open the personal panel and see the cultivation column. Qingshan Junior Tuna Technique, 83.41%, and 3-Body Steak Technique, 76.24%. Chuyang pondered, thinking that the primary breathing technique was about to be successfully practiced, and he needed to find other breathing techniques. Today, I watched Senior Shuelu demonstrate the various mysteries of Xingyi fist in the 3-Body Steak technique, and gained a lot of insights. It should not be long before we can break through to the rough level. The thought fell, and Chuyang put aside the 3-Body Steak technique and activated the breathing technique. The qi and blood in his body were slowly mobilized under each movement in stillness, causing his muscles to tear and his blood to flow gurgling. After becoming a first-order warrior, Chuyang clearly felt a surge of energy in the room, flowing into the elixir field with each breath and inhalation. Then, with the transpiration of qi and blood, it reached the 100 meridians of the limbs, silently strengthening his body. The feeling of strengthening in just one breath is so wonderful, it makes Chuyang savor the essence and wish he could continue practicing like this. But he knew that the breathing technique he was practicing now absorbed too little energy, making it difficult to sustain long-term consumption of qi and blood. If he practiced too heavily, it would actually damage the foundation of martial arts, which was not worth the loss. It would be great if there were precious medicinal herbs like lingqi ginseng to supplement qi and blood. Yang has come out to eat. I don't know how long it took, but when Chuyang heard Lin Ruoqing shout, he interrupted his practice with some reluctance and walked out of the room. "Brother, you are really hard-working enough to cultivate just when you come back," Chu Wanhue said coquettishly. Chuyang gently reached out and rubbed Chu Wanhue's head, saying with a smile, "I'm afraid you might catch up with Xiaoyu. I'll lose face then, so I'll have to work harder." "Humph, I don't believe you." Chu Wanhue heard being praised and smiled happily. Chu Hong and Lin Ruoqing looked at the playful children, with a pleased smile on their lips. Their son had become a martial artist, and their daughter was also talented. Their days were about to get better and better, and the joy between their eyebrows couldn't be concealed. After eating for a while, Chu Hong asked Chuyang, "Yang, how much spiritual ginseng is left?" "Dad will buy it for you in the next few days. There's still more than half left. I'll talk to you after we finish eating." Chuyang is not telling the truth. Every day, with an aged spiritual ginseng, one's family will soon be emptied. "Okay, don't delay your cultivation." Chu Hong chuckled and said. "Ever since I found out that my son has become a martial artist, I have been walking lightly all day and writing documents and materials in the workplace, which makes me so happy." After finishing his meal, Chuyang continued to enter the house and began practicing martial arts. The old technique. Xingyi fist. The splitting cannon and drilling horizontally, the 5 elements fist and the 6 harmonies are perfect and full of energy. With a 100-fold increase in talent, every punch feels like a divine assistance, and the understanding becomes deeper and deeper. A few hours later, Chuyang's footsteps were like the wind. In the narrow room, his body was howling, and every punch he made was like a knife tearing through the air, making a rapid cry. After a moment, the room was filled with the sound of a hurricane surging and shaking. Chuyang quickly stopped and forced a bitter smile. If he continued practicing like this, his parents and sister might not want to sleep tonight. So I stopped and slowly regained the consumed qi and blood, then opened the personal panel to take a look. Realm. First level warrior, 3.29%. Skill. 93% of Qingshan elementary tuna technique, proficient in 3 body stake technique, 1.71%. Martial arts. Introduction to Xingyi fist, 95.21%. Chuyang's gaze fixed on him. Unexpectedly, after just one night of cultivation, his 3-body stake technique had already entered the realm of rough mastery, and his Xingyi fist was about to enter the realm of rough mastery. But just thinking about it, one's own overnight cultivation is equivalent to someone else's 100-day cultivation. Brother, what are you practicing? Is it so loud inside the room? At this moment, the room door was suddenly pushed open, revealing Chu Wanyue's small head and her bright eyes filled with confusion. Xingyi fist, I will teach you when you become a martial artist. Chuyang smiled and said. Chu Wanyue quickly nodded, her face full of joy. By the time she became a martial artist, her brother must have become very powerful. After Chu Wanyue left, Chuyang continued to immerse himself in cultivation until his Xingyi fist broke through the rough realm before stopping. I pondered in my heart that since ancient times, it has been emphasized to be poor in literature and rich in martial arts. When studying literature, one can sit down and read anywhere with a book in hand. And what about practicing martial arts? It is not without reason that the wealth and land of the Dharma couple are indispensable. Dharma, nowadays the Qingshan elementary tuna technique in the training school can no longer keep up with one's own cultivation speed, but it is still barely usable when other techniques cannot be found. Couples, they should have close friends who can confide in each other and encourage each other to move forward. When honing their martial arts skills, they should be able to let go of their hands and feet, just like today's sparring with Zhou Jingling. There is no need to worry that the sparring may suddenly damage the foundation of their martial arts. The importance of wealth goes without saying. Without an economic foundation, there is no way to obtain cultivation methods, martial arts skills, and medicinal herbs that supplement qi in blood. Not to mention, cultivating martial arts is inevitable, and the cost of medicine is a considerable expense. As for the place, it is the current situation that Chuyang is facing, and one cannot practice martial arts without restraint. It seems that I can't continue practicing at home in the future. Chuyang said to himself, but if his parents know about it, they will inevitably worry, but time cannot withstand delays. Immediately, he no longer practiced martial arts, but instead leaned against the wall and started using a series of clumsy techniques such as weight-bearing push-ups and squats to enhance his physical fitness, enhancing his arm and leg strength. 11:31, 11:32. After a long time, Chuyang suddenly stood up and listened attentively to 3 faint and steady breathing sounds coming from the other rooms. He took a towel, wiped away the warm sweat on his body, revealing the muscular lines that were infused with gold and iron, full of primitive and wild explosive power. Put on your clothes, gently push open the window and look down. The huge drop of over 20 meters makes your legs tremble. Chuyang carefully calculated the pipes on the wall and the anti-theft devices outside the window. He took a deep breath and jumped out of the window. He grabbed the pipes with his hands like iron pliers, slid down for a while, and then used his strength to support him. He flew onto the anti-theft device on the lower floor, moving quickly outside the wall like an ape. Waiting for the position on the second floor, I jumped down and landed steadily, then ran quickly and disappeared into the moonlit night. Chapter 9. Mountains and Rivers Strengthen My Heart. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It was almost 12 o'clock, with sparse traffic and few pedestrians on the street. On the empty long street, the solitary figure of Chuyang rushed from afar. His speed is only slightly faster than that of an ordinary first-level warrior, which happens to be an opportunity for cultivation. As long as there is a breakthrough, he can obtain huge rewards. The colorful neon lights beside me quickly retreated and pulled out a colorful line, heading towards the east of the city. There is a Qinglong River in Yongchang City, which runs across the city. The cultural facilities are well constructed, and during the day, there are many tourists. At night, only a few scattered couples are taking a walk. Chuyang walked along the stone path by the Qinglong River for a while, calmed down his restless qi and blood, and then swung the 3 body stakes, punching and kicking step by step, walking towards the distance. At this moment, by the dim riverbank, a bright moon hung high in the middle of the sky. Looking at the shining lights in the distant city, Chuyang's intuitive heart was full of joy, and every breath was filled with cool night air. He could clearly feel the strands of energy being sucked into his abdomen, and his qi and blood gradually increased. After nearly 10 miles of punching, I was almost out of Yongchang City when I saw a majestic dam spanning both sides of the Qinglong River. Chuyang stood on the dam, looking up at the bright moon in the sky, and looking down at the surging river water. My intuition was filled with boldness and excitement, and the stars and rivers of heaven and earth all entered my chest. With a change of thought in my heart, I immediately felt a different aura emanating from me. I once again used my Xingyi fist, and every punch and kick seemed to carry a powerful aura. Although the current state of Chuyang is still very low, this state of mind and momentum is a realm that countless martial artists dream of but cannot comprehend. The splitting fist is like a divine sword soaring through the air, and the collapsing fist is like splitting a mountain, destroying a lonely city. The cannon fist is like a thunderbolt in this world, the diamond fist is like a dragon soaring into the abyss, and it is awe-inspiring for thousands of miles. One move in one fell swoop, full of spirit and grandeur, and the realm of Chuyang rapidly improved. When his body was depleted, Chuyang sat on the dam and practiced the technique of breathing to restore his qi and blood. After being fully revived, he continued to practice again, appearing like a madman. As the long night was coming to an end and the red sun was rising, Chuyang got up and walked home before his mother got up to cook. Still as it was last night, practicing boxing while walking on stakes, with a devout attitude. After encountering people in the city, he started a long run and returned home. At first glance, the time was just right. Mom was making breakfast in the kitchen when she saw Chuyang coming back from outside. She was very surprised and asked, Yang, why are you getting up so early? Lin Ruoqing could think of Chuyang sneaking out in the middle of the night and not returning all night. After washing his face, Chuyang said, get up early and go for a run. The martial arts college entrance examination seems to be a passing exam. Oh. Lin Ruoqing didn't doubt his presence, but only said with concern, you practiced so late yesterday and got up so early. Don't break your body again. Chuyang comforted and said, it's okay, Mom. I have a sense of propriety in my heart. That's good, you go take a break first. Your father and Xiaoye haven't gotten up yet. Lin Ruoqing shouted in the kitchen. After a simple breakfast, Chuyang took the bus to the school. As soon as he entered the class, Zhou Jingling surrounded him and looked at Chuyang with a puzzled expression. He exclaimed, why do you feel a bit different from yesterday? Chuyang smiled and asked, what's different? You seem to have an extra aura on you, it's strange. Zhou Jingling said, I have felt this feeling on the experts around my father, but they are third-level martial artists, and you are only first level. Chuyang didn't expect Zhou Jingling to be so sharp. Last night, his mood changed and he caught him. As for the momentum in his mouth, Chuyang himself was not very clear. He only knew that practicing boxing was more relaxed and casual, and he was much more calm. Are you still playing today? Zhou Jingling didn't know if he felt wrong, so he turned to ask. Fight, I'll try to kick you more today. Chuyang said, it's a pity not to agree to the training partner who came to your door. Chuyang practiced all night without sleeping, although he didn't feel tired at all. If this continued, his body would inevitably develop hidden diseases. Chuyang's humanities grades were among the top in the class, and he had already learned almost everything he needed to learn. Soon after class, he fell asleep on the table. During this time, homeroom teacher Zhou Jianfeng saw Chuyang sleeping, shook his head, and didn't say much. He thought he would come to Chuyang to apply for the martial arts exam. Last night, he must have practiced hard and didn't attend a few classes. For Chuyang, who had excellent grades, it was not a problem. At noon, Chuyang and Zhou Jingling ran to the small forest to have a sparring. What surprised Zhou Jingling again was that Chuyang had fought against him back and forth. Although their combat experience was not comparable to his own, their capital could always show their counterattack at an urgent moment. Of course, this is also why Zhou Jingling's strength is similar to that of Chuyang. If he were a second or third level warrior, even Chuyang's instincts were terrifying, and he couldn't resist a punch from a master. Zhou Jingling became increasingly frightened as he fought. Chuyang's understanding of martial arts was too rapid and his application was not awkward. He quickly gathered his playful spirit and stood ready, honing his mastery of martial arts skills and gaining considerable rewards. Taking the opportunity to rest during the day, sparring with Zhou Jingling, and secretly sneaking out to practice at night, Chuyang's combat experience and the use of Xingyi fist increased terrifying more than a decade later. Realm. First level warrior, 69.5%. Skill. Qingshan elementary tuna technique is 100%, and the three-body stake technique is 47.1%. Martial arts. Proficient in Xingyi fist by 12.4%. The entry is not insignificant, after all, Chuyang has 100 times the talent. Practicing one fist is like practicing 100 fists. After careful calculation, he has also practiced martial arts for about 2 years, and this speed is not too exaggerated. For the past half-month, Chuyang has not heard any news about the group of criminals in his father's mouth. According to Zhou Jingling, the group of warriors were killed 3 times by the garrison, but they eventually escaped tracking and seem to have fled to other cities. So, Chuyang and his parents proposed the idea of looking for a part-time job. Mom was still a bit worried, but in the end, she nodded and agreed to the father's persuasion that, when the child is old, there will always be a day to leave, let him start his own business. Chapter 10. Part-time work. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the small forest behind the school, Chuyang and Zhou Jingling lay on the ground panting heavily, recovering their strength. Zhou Jingling was somewhat indignant and grinned in pain, shouting at Chuyang, "You're just a monster." Originally, in this recent battle, Zhou Jingling was defeated. In a situation where qi and blood levels and martial arts skills were superior, he was repeatedly defeated by Chuyang. Although Chuyang had only been practicing martial arts for half a month, his comprehension was too terrifying. The use of Xingyi fist was impeccable, as if he had fought hundreds of thousands of times. The splitting fist was like a giant axe chopping on his arm. If Chuyang had not stayed behind, Zhou Jingling had no doubt that he would have been cut off. Cannon fist is like a siege sledgehammer, hitting every organ and every organ trembling, let alone the terrifying attack of the bankrupt fist. He dare not say he can really withstand it. You also hide your trump card. A few days ago, you used Tai Chi and Tong Bei fist. If it weren't for today's real ability to force you, I wouldn't have known that your best martial arts cultivation was actually Baji Fist. Chuyang did not expect Zhou Jingling to have so many martial arts skills, especially the 8 Extremes Fist, which obviously put in a lot of effort and was not much different from the Xingyi Fist he had mastered. He must be proficient in it. Humph, if I use Liehu Fist, I'll definitely be able to knock you down with one punch. Zhou Jingling sprayed injury medicine while angrily saying. As long as you dodge that punch, it's still you lying down. Chuyang smiled and joked. Zhou Jingling snorted, can you avoid it? Chuyang recalled for a moment and solemnly said, if you exert all your strength, I shouldn't be able to avoid it. I just don't know if I can handle it. You think I practiced this move in vain? I'll use my fierce tiger fist with all my strength. As long as you're not a second-level martial artist, you'll definitely die. This is my killing move. Today's battle with you has given me a deeper understanding of the 8 Extremes Fist. Look at it, in a few days, you will definitely not be able to get up. Zhou Jingling confidently looked at Chuyang and said. Chuyang earnestly agreed, okay, I'm waiting for you. For the past half-month, the two have been either discussing martial arts or sparring, and their relationship has advanced rapidly. Moreover, Zhou Jingling had no sense of superiority from his family's offspring. He was low-key and humble, able to afford to lose and let go. Even if he was beaten all over, he did not use the fierce tiger fist that was enough to overturn the situation, which shows his character. Zhou Jingling also had such feelings towards Chuyang. He witnessed Chuyang's promotion from an ordinary person to a martial artist, his unwavering dedication to martial arts, his terrifying understanding of martial arts, and his ability to gain deeper insights during sparring. Both of them have a high pursuit of martial arts, forging ahead with each other and being good teachers and friends. Chuyang, even though my chi and blood are more powerful than yours and my martial arts skills are more advanced than yours, why can't I compete with you? Zhou Jingling asked in confusion. He recalled that during the recent battle, Chuyang was clearly more seriously injured than him, but he felt like he was pressing down on him and couldn't even unleash his skills. Perhaps it's because of a different mindset. After thinking for a moment, Chuyang slowly spoke up and said, my belief is to be invincible with a punch, to use the force to suppress others. Once you show your fear in your heart, you will be defeated. Of course, if you hold on to my physical exhaustion, I will be the one who loses. Mood. After pondering for a few seconds, Zhou Jingling shook his head helplessly and said, it's too profound, I don't understand. I never expected that you, as a first-order martial artist, would be able to comprehend such things. Can you teach me? If there are any taboos, just forget them. Chuyang smiled and said, what's wrong with this? I just touched this layer by chance. Maybe it's because you've been sailing smoothly and haven't had enough experience. Perhaps that's the reason. Zhou Jingling deeply believed it. Chuyang said, so, tonight at 12 o'clock, you'll be waiting for me at the Qinglong Dam. I just stumbled upon it and didn't know if I could teach you. Give it a try, maybe I have exceptional talent and can easily penetrate it. Zhou Jingling smiled and suddenly remembered something, saying, by the way, the part-time job I found for you has settled down. It's just that the time is a bit late and the place is a bit messy. Do you mind? Chuyang asked, where is it? The Black Night Bar is quite famous. The owner is my dad's friend and reliable. Most importantly, there is a dedicated martial arts training room where you can try it for free when you have free time. Zhou Jingling finished speaking. Chuyang nodded and agreed, offering a free trial of the martial arts cultivation room. Is there such a good thing? It can be seen that this is a place specifically found by Zhou Jingling, considering it for him. Okay, I'll take you over after school this afternoon. Zhou Jingling said. After school, Chuyang called his mother and told her that he might not go back tonight, so he and Zhou Jingling took a flying car to the Black Night Bar. At this time, the bar had not yet started operating, and it was very quiet inside, with only a few waiters playing with the tables and chairs. Zhou Jingling led Chuyang up the second floor, pushed open the door of an office, and saw a thin man in his 30s lying on a chair, wearing a virtual helmet, feeling contented. "Brother Wang, isn't Uncle Shui here?" Zhou Jingling shouted at the thin man. After seeing Zhou Jingling, the man quickly took off his virtual helmet and said, "Oh, can the boss be in this place?" Turning his head to look at Chuyang, he said, "This is your classmate." "Alright, don't worry, the boss has already explained it to me." "Well, that's fine." Zhou Jingling responded. Wang Cheng looked at Chuyang and continued, "We agreed in advance that the base salary is 8,000 yuan per month. If you perform well, I can make the decision to raise it to you later. If there are no objections, after signing this contract, you can start working tonight." Chuyang carefully looked at the contract, confirmed that there were no issues, and signed it. He spoke up and asked, "So what exactly am I responsible for?" Wang Cheng said casually, "Don't worry about anything else. If someone causes trouble, just dare to hit them.